Hey everyone, happy Tuesday, October 25th. For today's episode, it is a special crossover edition with Jess Belmosto of Locked On Flames that came up very last minute. So we're going to preview the big game on Tuesday night at the Scotiabank Saddledome between the Penguins and the Flames. The Penguins badly needing a win after choking that 3-1 lead to the Oilers on Monday night. I'm also going to go over some of my observations from that game, go into what went wrong for the Penguins, who played well versus who didn't, what the Penguins need to do to get back on track, some keys to win, and obviously a prediction as well. So that's all coming up after this drop, a full crossover edition with Jess Belmosto of Locked On Flames.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Locked On Flames. Today, I am joined by Hunter Hodes of Locked On Penguins, and we are going to break down the season so far, preview the game, and, of course, give you our predictions. You can follow the show at Locked On, LO_Flames Pod on Twitter. And of course, you can subscribe to us on YouTube as well as anywhere you get your podcasts. Hunter, how are you doing?
I'm good. The Penguins didn't have a good game on Monday night against the Oilers. They had played a good 20 minutes before they got blown out of the water in the final 40. That was their first regulation loss of the year. But, we'll see if they can get it back tonight against the Flames at the Saddledome. I always love this road trip, and outside of that, I'm doing pretty well.
How are you doing with the time zone difference?
I honestly don't mind. I'm someone, again, I love the Western Canada road trip. I think it's great. I love late night hockey. The California road trip, always goated as well. When you start a game at 9 o'clock, it goes to 11:30, sometimes midnight. That's fine with me. Ain't no problems, as Shannon Sharp says. I'm a late night owl. I'll stay up till 12, 12:30, 1 a.m. most nights. Either just playing video games or getting some content out. So I don't mind it at all. I love this road trip. You're playing some really good teams. The Penguins just found out against the Oilers, and they're going to play another really good team again in the Flames tonight as they try to bounce back.
So you mentioned that it was their first regulation loss. What's been going right for the Penguins so far this season?
Yeah, they're scoring a lot of goals. In all four of their wins, they have 6 goals. It's crazy. Going into last night, for their first 5 games, they scored 24 goals. So wow. They've been kicking butt and taking names so far. But they just haven't played some consistent periods in some of these games. They've been able to score, but it hasn't been as consistent. Oh, the level of play hasn't been as consistent. They go up 2-1 against the Oilers. It's looking good. You go up 3-1 against them. It's like, okay, it's even better. But then they just took the foot off the gas pedal, and then the Oilers just steamrolled them the rest of that game. Those last 30, 35 minutes, I will say. And this is an Oilers team that had their number last year. They beat them twice in regulation. Usually the Penguins play the Oilers really well, but they've lost at least 3 times in a row against them now. But, they're getting scoring from all over the lineup. Sidney Crosby is showing why he's still a top 5 player in the league. Evgeny Malkin's been incredible. Chris Letang's had mostly good games over the last couple. Hasn't been at his normal, what we would expect, I would say, from Chris Letang. But, the goaltending as well. I think that's been a big story. Tristan Jarry has played at a Vezina caliber level going into last night. He had a .941 save percentage in his first 4 appearances, about a 2 goals against average, top 5 in goals saved above expected. He is playing like an elite goalie right now, just was left out to dry in that game against Edmonton. Tonight, they'll be going with Casey DeSmith, who had a really good outing against Montreal. He'll try to play at that level again for the Penguins. But, even the depth, I think that's been mostly pretty decent so far. You have Carter scoring a couple. Josh Archibald got his first goal against Columbus. Ryan Poehling got one. Brock McGinn got one. So everything just seems to be gelling really well right now. It's all about, can they put full 60-minute performances together after that game against Edmonton and even against Columbus and Los Angeles. They got outplayed for at least a period in those games, but they were able to flip the switch, as some would say. So I guess the big thing for me is, can they flip that switch for a whole game and not take periods off?
That sounds very familiar here at Locked On Flames. I think that is definitely one of the Flames' biggest problems, is either taking their foot off the gas too early or not applying enough pressure, or applying too much pressure and then kind of fizzling out for the second period because they don't have the stamina, and then coming back strong in the third. But for the Flames, one of their biggest things right now is not being able to get the top line going on 5v5 on the even strength. It's not clicking, I guess. And Jonathan Huberdeau is still looking for his first goal. And, Tyler Toffoli has proved me wrong. I said that, he might be a little bit weaker on that top line, and he's proved me wrong. He had an overtime winner against Carolina the other night. And, I think that once they kind of get things going at even strength, this team will be even more of a powerhouse.
Yeah, when I look at the Flames lineup, and, credit to the Flames and Brad Treliving for, okay, we're going to go lose Johnny Gaudreau. We're going to go lose Matthew Tkachuk. We're going to tank, right? Nope. He's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go out and get Jonathan Huberdeau, Mackenzie Weegar, and Nazem Kadri. And we're going to go out and compete in a weak Pacific Division. And so far, I think you guys are doing a pretty good job of that. And, Huberdeau, Lindholm, Toffoli. I mean, that top line is on paper very, very good. And honestly, knowing the Penguins' luck, I'm sure Huberdeau will probably get his first tonight against them. But you go down, Kadri's on your second line. I know Mangiapane is your guy, Jess, just because she had a shooting percentage blender last year when I think he shot 20%, if that. It's like a career high. I don't know if he'll ever get that high again, but
he's something.
He had a really good year. You go below that. Backlund is a player that I've always liked, going back to like 2014. Blake Coleman, Trevor Lewis. I forgot honestly that Milan Lucic is there still. It's a deep team.
Yeah.
And I think Brad Treliving deserves a lot of credit for that. And defensively, Weegar and Chris Tanev, and I thought Chris Tanev was honestly washed going into last season, turns in one of his best seasons of his life.
Yeah.
So what have you noticed from some of the new players not named Huberdeau so far, like a Kadri, like a Weegar? Like, have they been as advertised?
Yeah, I think that with Kadri, especially, you're getting that he's all over the ice. He is someone who can play that 200-foot game in a way that, you might hate him if you're the opponent, but you'd kill to have him on your team. I think that he is someone who can find the back of the net, who can make plays, who has a strong forecheck, who can apply pressure when it's needed and give you that clutch ability to score. And Mackenzie Weegar, I was so excited to have him part of that trade package for Matthew Tkachuk because, number one, he is a strong defenseman. I think that the Flames defense was strong last year, but it gets even stronger with him. And he's a tough kid. He's a tough guy to play. And, if, he drops the gloves, I think that's a lot of fun. But, he is a great offensive presence as well.
Yeah, Weegar, he was always considered underrated. I thought when he was in Florida, playing with Ekblad, I don't think he carried that pairing for sure. Ekblad, when he's healthy, he's one of the best in the league. But, when he wasn't on that pairing, you could definitely see that Ekblad wasn't the same player at times, though Gustav Forsling was able to help out when he came up. But, even below that, Hanifin has turned into a really good player. Anderson, Nikita Zadorov, Michael Stone. I really like this team. And then when you have Jacob Markstrom in net, I think that's, he's one of the better goalies in the league. He was great last season. So far this season, just overall, like numbers wise, eye test wise, what have you seen from them, that's positive, and what have you seen that's negative?
Yeah, I think that for them, they are definitely getting better on special teams all around. I think that they had a brutal brutal preseason with special teams, and it forced a real emphasis on them and to really tighten those up. But I want to see, I just want to see more scoring, and I want to see just shoot the puck, just find a way. Even if you don't think you're gonna get it, just try it. You never know. And I think goaltending wise, I don't know what it is about Rasmus Andersson and deflecting shots, but he has forced, I think, like 3 goals. Just that he's just been in the way for Markstrom, and it's a brutal turnover from Dylan Dubé in the neutral zone. Anything really. I think that they're still kind of shaking off the offseason and that, that really late run in June. So I think that they're waking back up, but I think that it's the end of October. They have, I think this is their 6th game under their belt. So they'll be fine.
At the end of the day, we haven't even reached Halloween yet. This month for playoff teams, people like to freak out over some games and stuff. These teams, they know what it takes to really flip the switch and get going. Like for the Penguins, they freaked out when they lost to Montreal about last week, right? And people were like, well, this could be a bad sign for the rest of the season. I'm like, it's game 3. This team always wakes up December, January, February, and then they know how to play in the playoffs. And I think the Flames, it's a veteran group there. You just added a Stanley Cup winner in Nazem Kadri, who knows what he's doing, obviously. You have Huberdeau, who's made the playoffs numerous times. Blake Coleman also has a couple Stanley Cup rings. Yeah. Like, I think they know what it takes to really just get going here.
Absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right when it comes to teams waking up a little bit later than others. What has been kind of your red flags surrounding Pittsburgh? And then what are the good things happening there?
I guess red flags. Some of the special teams at times has been, all right. The penalty kill, it's been good. It's been good in spurts, but also kind of mixed in with some bad stuff. Sometimes they haven't gotten the bounces, which is fine, but I think other times they just haven't. They're not being as aggressive at the point, like, because they kind of run like a diamond structure. They have one guy at the top. They have the other 3 kind of like in a triangle are protecting the slot because they don't want the high danger chances to go in, and they want to make it as easy as possible for Tristan Jarry to stop the puck. But when that top guy is not pressuring the puck carrier at the point, it makes it that much easier for them to get around that diamond, and then they're giving up goals left and right. And I just feel like they've still been passive at times with that. The top power play been a little more inconsistent these last couple of games. I think the second unit's honestly been a bit better than the first one, which is usually not the case just because the first unit has all the world-class talent on it. But I think with that top unit, they get a little pass happy, and it's just, the zone entries are, there's some shorthanded breakaways, and it's all just, it's not going according to plan. So I guess those aren't, total red flags, but they're areas that I want to see improved. I still want another forward to the bottom 6, even when they're fully healthy. I think they're still a little bit short there. Everything else, I think, has been great. The top 6 is playing very well. I think Kasperi Kapanen's having a really strong bounce back year. He's only has 1 goal, but he's been playing at a point per game pace, which is something that I didn't expect him to coming into this year. The Pettersson-Petrie pairing has been awesome. Petrie, kind of a little bit of a rough game against Edmonton, but I think for the most part, I'm liking how he's playing. I think defensively overall, I think all 6 are mostly playing fine. I'm a little hesitant on Brian Doolan because he did play really bad against Edmonton. He got absolutely schooled by Leon Draisaitl, and I understand Leon Draisaitl's a top 10 player in the league, but he made a decision he had so much room to skate up the ice and then just fires a stupid pass, and then Draisaitl comes back the other way, absolutely dekes him out of his skates, and the puck's in the back of the net. And it's just like, I just don't want to see that from him, especially when he's in a contract year. I think he's kind of been skating in mud for the last, I guess, the full season at most part. 5-on-5, his metrics aren't too terrible, but away from that, it's not the same, and he just hasn't been the same player the last year or two. I think just mainly because of injuries, but also just because he's getting older. And right now, I'm not extending him. That's for sure. So I guess those are the main areas of concern that I have for the Penguins, and the areas that I'm really thrilled with them so far.
Yeah. And, I think the second half of a back-to-back and on a Western Canadian road trip is going to be a little bit hard for them, but we do have our game preview coming up next. But first, I did just want to take a second to talk to you about our next partner, AG1. Our next partner has a product that I use literally every day, and I started taking AG1 because I have a horrible stomach. I have just horrible digestive problems, and AG1 has definitely helped with digestion, energy, simplicity, and getting all of my high quality minerals and vitamins in just one simple scoop. It's lifestyle friendly, so whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, this is perfect for you. And Athletic Greens was created when the founder experienced a ton of gut health issues and ended up on a complicated supplement routine to recover, and it cost him nearly $100 a day. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with the convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/LockedOnNHL to NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Thank you all for tuning in to Locked On Flames. As always, you can check out Locked On Penguins as well while you're here or when you're done here. Hunter, I think both of these teams have an issue with playing a complete game. The full 60 minutes is required when you are playing hockey. That is just kind of the bare minimum here. Where do you think the Penguins struggle most? Is it coming out with, not enough energy? Is it coming out with too much and then they, overexert themselves and then take a break? What have you noticed, if there's a trend at all?
It's funny you say that. Last night I think they came out with a lot of energy, and great friend of the show, Jesse Marshall, his big thing is, we do the vibe check after the first 5-10 minutes. Usually about 90% of the time, how the game was going to go at that point. And the Penguins were forechecking really well against the Oilers. They were peppering Jack Campbell. They put up 20 shots in the first period against him. And, the first 5 minutes of the second period were good. And then they just got waxed. And it looked like they maybe overexerted themselves. They couldn't get the puck back on their stick. I don't even think they could string together 2 passes from going from defense to offense after that. It was that bad for the Penguins. And Mike Sullivan was very upset after the game. He said, we're not taking care of the puck right now. It's something that's got to change. Even if it's the 6th game out of 82, when he's upset like that, the players are going to hear it in the locker room. And I'm sure he had multiple conversations with them during the game and then after the game. But before that, against Montreal and Columbus and Los Angeles, they've come out flat. In the first periods, haven't been really too kind to them. But then they're able to, settle in, have good second periods, and they've been able to carry the play for the rest of the game. So it's kind of just been, something different. I shouldn't say each time, but I guess 3 games it was the same thing, and then it would change to something different. So you're right. They do need to just be more consistent with that. Got to play full 60 minutes, especially against a team like the Flames. Daryl Sutter is a great coach. He's going to have his team ready to play. It's not going to be, high event hockey just because that's how he coaches his teams. But, what you're going to expect, a 2-1, a 3-2 game. That's the kind of hockey that Daryl Sutter likes. But I want to see the Penguins come out with a little bit more, speeds. And I want to see them come out the way they played last night, I should say. But I want to see them, be able to contain that speed and that energy for the rest of the game. It's easier said than done because you are on a back-to-back. It's the Western Canada road trip. It's very hard on a team from the East Coast, but it's a team that they need to. Of course, my dog comes in right as I'm finishing what I'm saying. But no, it's okay. Thrawny's just hanging out over here. But I want to see what they can do, for this back-to-back and just come out with that energy, because it's easy to be gassed, but hopefully, they don't look the way they did in the second and third periods against Edmonton.
Absolutely. And, I think with the what a cute dog.
He's having fun.
He's having a blast. And now he's just like, okay, I'm done.
Come here, buddy. You can be in the show.
With the Flames, I feel like it definitely does depend on who they're playing. And they've been off since Saturday. So I feel like, or I guess Friday, they finished their game Friday night. Or was it Saturday? I don't know. It was Saturday. I lied. But they played Saturday and they've had a few days off. And I think that they'll be well rested. But with that rest comes the fear of not playing at that great level and kind of coming out slow. And, Brett Ritchie has been playing very, very weird hockey. He's scored 2 goals so far this season, but he's also found himself benched, him and Kevin Rooney in the third period. I believe it was the game against Buffalo, actually. And I think with the Flames, you do have to worry about them having a flat middle period. I think their second period is just something where they're either cranked up to 100% or you're getting the bare minimum. They had a really good second period against the Carolina Hurricanes on Saturday, but at the same time, they played like garbage against Buffalo. So when you go into a game and expect to win, or maybe the bar is lowered because it is the second half of a back-to-back, or it's a draft lottery team that you're playing, I think that, with that mentality, you're not going to be playing close to 100%. And they have to go at this and realize that the Penguins are still a competitive team, regardless of if it's a second half of a back-to-back or you've had equal amount of rest. And I was praising, the longevity of the Penguins on yesterday's show because, the last Stanley Cup they won was the year I started covering hockey a lot closer. And I jokingly said, oh, well, it's me. I'm the problem here for them. But at the same time, they have had such a great roster through the years. And I think that's something that a lot of teams have started to emulate.
Yeah. And it's crazy. 17 years in a row that 3 players have played together. It's tied for the longest in North American sports. They're going to break that record next year, and it'll probably reach 20 when it's all said and done, which is crazy because at that point I'll be almost 30 and they'll start playing with each other when I was only 7 or 8. So that's just makes me feel old. That's to say the least.
Yeah. That's a nice reminder.
No, I know, but yeah, you made a point about the second half of the back-to-back with how they're being competitive. Yeah, this team is going to come out, I think, fired up. They're going to be upset after how they lost that game because when I was looking at that game against the Oilers, excuse me, I was like, okay, if you can keep this lead here, get the 2 points, I really wouldn't mind if you lose to the Flames because that's a really good team. Obviously, I want them, I think most fans want them to win each of their games. But that's not going to happen. You're not going to go 81-0-0 or 81-0-1, excuse me. But the fact that they lost that game, especially in regulation, looked bad in those last couple of periods, they're going to come out and be really upset tonight. I would not be surprised if they do put together a really good effort. Though, again, it's going to be hard going up against a rested Flames team because, they still have good underlying numbers. If you go to natural stat trick at 5v5, 53% of the shot attempts for them at even strength, 52% of the expected goals, 51% of the scoring chances. Yeah, it's a solid team. Usually Daryl Sutter teams have good underlines. Great in Los Angeles, good last year. It hasn't changed this year. So this is going to be an even tougher game for the Penguins to win. And, I pray for how the fan base will react if they do. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. And, I do always worry about people overreacting, and especially when it is this early in the season. I don't want people going into tonight on either side thinking like it's the end of the world. If you lose, I think it's, again, it's a lot easier to have that tough streak in December and January after few good wins in October. And it doesn't, every point matters, of course, but it's not gonna knock you out of the playoffs if you just lose.
No, yeah. And we discussed that just a couple of minutes ago. These games, you haven't reached Halloween yet. You can start freaking out if you're kind of out of the race, maybe by December, Thanksgiving. I mean, even by then, it's still a little bit early too.
Right,
but,
you still have
the Penguins, like last year, they started out a bit slow just because of COVID, but they also had Sid and Gino out for the first few weeks of the season. But the depth was able to keep them in it. I believe they were 9-8-4 at one point, like 5th or 6th in the Metro, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, they're below 500." They get some guys back. They went on, I think it was in December, something like that, or maybe November. They go on like a 6 to 7 game winning streak, and I'm like, well, got 10, 12, 14 points in a row here. They're right back in the top 3 in the Metro where they would not come out of for the rest of the season. So, most of the fans, I think, in this fan base, they've seen a lot of hockey over the years. They know what to expect from a 2-game season. If they lose tonight, yeah, it'll be annoying. You don't get any points in this back-to-back, but you also have to realize that you'd still be 4-2-1. You have points in 5 of the 7 games. And the fact would be you have 2 games coming up later in the week against 2 teams who have really struggled this year, especially Vancouver. That team is a mess, to say the least. 0-5-2. Seattle, a little bit better, but I'm still not a really big believer in the Kraken. The Penguins went 1-0-1 against them last year, so I'm not really too concerned as of right now.
Yeah, and I think that's a good place to be, especially, when you do go into this and you're playing Vancouver. And I just feel very bad for everyone who spends money to go watch them. That is unfortunate. They should be paying you to watch them. But coming up next, we are going to talk about our predictions, and we are going to just wrap up the show with some fun. And thank you so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate the fans here at Locked On Flames and Locked On Penguins. Fans make this possible for us, so thank you. This is the second time the Flames have played a very good team on the second half of a back-to-back this season. They started their season against the Avalanche, who had their opening night and then flew north through the Rockies to Calgary, and then now they're playing the Penguins. And I think, like you mentioned, the Penguins are going to come out angry. They're going to come out hungry. They want to win. Jacob Markstrom's in net tonight, so he's kind of...
He had the Penguins' number last year. He kicked their butts in both games. So
yeah, but he's had a shaky start to the season, and people are acting like it's the end of the world. He still has fine numbers. They're just not his Vezina caliber numbers. I think he has a 2.9 goals against average and a save percentage of like 9, like low 9s. But again, it is October 25th. It's October 25th, people.
Yes.
It's going to be okay. I think this will be a fun offensively driven game for both teams.
Hope everyone takes the over.
Yeah, right? I think anytime like I watch a game with the Penguins or 2 really highly competitive playoff teams, it just gives me the vibes of like anything you can do, I can do better. And it's just going back and forth until the final minute. So I'm going to say that this is going to be a 4-3 game rather. in regulation, it'll be the Flames.
I figured. I usually don't take the Penguins to win. I did when I was on with Jay of Locked On Blue Jackets. That was a great crossover as well. And they actually won. They won. I think I said 3-2. They won 6-3. So I got the 3 right for Columbus, but the 6th, didn't get it right for the Penguins. I also think it's going to be a high scoring game. I'm going to go, I'm actually going to go like 5-4 or something tonight. I think you're not going to see a total Daryl Sutter type game. He's probably not going to like this. But as I said, I think everyone should take the over. I think the Penguins are going to come out wanting to score a lot of goals tonight. I know, buddy. It's okay.
Oh.
I know Throney's here. He's ready for the game as well. But I think it's going to be 5-4 game. I think the Penguins are going to come out and score more goals tonight. I think Casey DeSmith is going to have a decent outing. He's going to do just enough for the Penguins to get this win. And I think they will bounce back just because I think Mike Sullivan was not happy with the way they played against the Oilers. He basically roasted his team to the media after the game. I mean, he wasn't fuming, but based on his answers when he was asked about, controlling the puck and the turnovers, he was not happy. To say
the fundamentals. I think that's where a lot of teams really get caught up and think that they can just outsmart what makes the game the game. And that's kind of been an issue for the Flames too, because I feel like sometimes when they're gliding through the neutral zone, it just falls apart, especially if they are going into the defensive zone. So we'll have to see what tonight brings. I feel like if you're watching the Flames, you always have to bet the over because they just find a way to just take it and run with it. But yeah, so that will do it for me for today's show. Hunter, do you have anything you would like to add?
No, I think that's basically it. Obviously, there will be no Jake Gensel again tonight. He's still battling his injury. I think he'll be back hopefully by the end of the week. Teddy Bluger is still going to be out for the next week or two, so they're still down a couple regulars. Would not be surprised if maybe Drake Caggiula comes out tonight for Sam Poulin so he can make his NHL debut. Otherwise, I think you'll probably see the same lineup.
Yeah.
Tonight, outside of the goaltending, I think obviously Casey DeSmith will start. Had a great preseason. Was the main reason why the Penguins were in position to win that game against Montreal. And I would look to him just to have a pretty similar performance tonight. He's playing at a really high level right now as a backup.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something to look out for the Flames tonight would absolutely be Nazem Kadri and Elias Lindholm swapping lines at some point, especially if the Flames find themselves trailing. That seems to be something that Daryl Sutter's starting, and I think that he might have something in the works there. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in to today's episode. You can follow me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto. You can find Locked On Flames wherever you listen to your podcasts, and we're available on YouTube as well. Come hang out, answer the question of the day that we pinned in the comments, and I look forward to watching. Definitely a playoff vibe feel, even though it's two different conferences. I would say Stanley Cup, but I feel like it's still too early to declare
just
either
a little
of
bit.
these teams. It's not, like we've said a million times this episode, it's not even Halloween, but it will be next Monday. So thank you all. And Hunter, where can people find you?
Yeah. For all you Flames fans that want to get anything regarding the Pittsburgh Penguins, you can check out my podcast wherever you get your podcasts. My Twitter is at Hunter Hodes. My profile picture right now is Connor McDavid because I lost a bet to my friend who was going to send me some money if the Penguins had won. But see, he said for me, he had to put a Connor McDavid one up there. That's going to change at 9:00 tonight. And then my show's Twitter is at LO_Penguins. And yeah, excited for this one. Love when these two teams play. And they had some pretty good games last year. I think one went 9-10 rounds in a shootout when Markstrom and Jari were just trading saves with each other. The other one, the Flames, I think, blew them out of the water in Pittsburgh. So really excited to see how this goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely hang out with us on Twitter, and we will catch you tomorrow and online on Twitter because both of us are terminally online.